Hello, I have Nurse Shannon with me today, and she is a school nurse, and she's going to share some perspectives from her practice with nursing inside the school system, and also how she works with those parents, students, and other community members and other folks that would engage in a student's health. So I'm going to start by asking you, what is your role in relationship to students that have asthma or other chronic medical conditions?
Thanks for that question. So the school nurse, and specifically the certified school nurse in Illinois, a lot of people don't know that school nurses in Illinois become certified through the Illinois School Board of Education. And as professional educators licensed. So we are on the same category, and is parallel to the educational staff, the teachers, and the other professional support professionals on the team. So that would be like your school psychologists, your social workers, occupational therapists, PT, and all the people that we deal with and work with as an interdisciplinary team for the students. So for students with asthma, the certified school nurse is the case manager and the care coordinator at school, who serves as a liaison between the student's healthcare providers and primary care specialists and the home, to make sure that their needs are met. So all the health barriers to learning are reduced, and the student can optimize their education. What our first step is to establish that relationship and that therapeutic relationship with the students. We sit down with students who have chronic healthcare needs, specifically asthma in this case, and do a health appraisal. So we talk with the student about how their condition impacts them, both at home and at school. We talk with the parents, do a thorough health history about how, when the student was diagnosed, how long they've had asthma, what the triggers are at home, etc., and what the essentially the medical history has been, what the student has, what care helps the student, and what makes the condition worse. So from there, we also do a physical assessment of the student, listen to the student with asthma, do peak flows at their best when they're not having an episode, and just a health inventory, make sure there aren't other things going on, other medications, mental health concerns that also overlap and kind of complicate the picture. So we want to know holistically where the student is coming with their health to school. Students with asthma qualify for Section 504 plans at school, which is a federal law that protects students with disabilities from being discriminated at school. So school has to put in accommodations. Public schools have to put in accommodations to make sure that the student can optimally access every part of their school day to participate as best they can. So particularly with students with asthma, PE is a big deal because they often have an exacerbation in PE. So for a student with asthma, they may have modified PE, or maybe they don't go outside for PE on a certain, when the temperature is below a certain mark, that would be a trigger for them. So they would have alternative activities related to PE, on those days. The Section 504 plan protects students from being dinged in their grades if they're missing class or they can't complete assignments or whatever related to their disability. So a student shouldn't have, lower grades or participation grades in gym if they, can't participate fully because, they get short of breath.
So in our patient's case, her plan of care has changed because she is going to be on some new medicine. And in addition, she was never very well controlled to begin with. So how, as the school nurse, do you get information about the change in plan of care, whether it's a medication change or an activity tolerance change?
So the school nurse works with the parent, and it's the parent's responsibility by and large to request from the provider an asthma action plan for school. So most providers that work with kids are very, very familiar with this, and they will supply the school with an asthma action plan that is essentially an emergency care plan that says, if you see this, you do this for the student. So there's a green, yellow, and red zones on the asthma action plan. So that's one of the first things to secure for the student, that we have an up-to-date asthma action plan. And it also should have their medications, their controller medications at home, and their rescue medications, their metered dose inhaler, bronchodilator, usually albuterol, that they need at school with a spacer. So some students who don't have well-controlled asthma may not be seeing a primary care provider regularly due to, problems with transportation, access to care, insurance, a whole host of reasons. And so those students are the ones that we really, really concentrate getting into a primary care provider so they can be well controlled and have their asthma action plan implemented at school. So the key is controlling at home. But then, of course, we would have rescue medication requested, medical orders at school. So many students have their inhalers in the school health office, but when developmentally appropriate and better controlled, and students really have a handle, the school nurses work with them to teach them how to use their inhalers, then they do have the right to carry their inhalers with them at school, which is different from most medications. Kids are supposed to have medication on them, but for rescue medication like albuterol or epinephrine for food allergies, those kinds of things, the students are allowed to self-carry.
Wonderful. And then just last questions. What obstacles do you see in your position as far as or barriers for working with the healthcare team that's more primary care focused or in the hospital setting focused? And then what would be some suggestions for breaking down those barriers?
Most of the time it works really well. There's good communication and people really want the student to be well controlled because obviously, asthma is scary. It's a life-threatening condition. So most of the time it works well. There are some barriers. There are HIPAA restrictions sometimes that get in the way between the provider and the school nurse. That's unnecessary because from provider to provider, you can always communicate when you are carrying out a plan of care, but doctors' offices don't always understand that. And, parental consent, sometimes hard to get, that might be a barrier. And then on the reverse side, the school equivalent to HIPAA is called FERPA, which is Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. And so that sometimes presents another layer of, another hurdle to get over so that the school can release information to the healthcare providers. But we work really hard. We get through it. It's paramount. Pick up the phone, have meetings, Zoom with people. We always get through it because it's paramount that this child is safe at school.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Nurse Shannon, for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.